had barely finished straightening the last wine glasses when Mrs. Levington called me over. "Callum, mind your step tonight. These guests expect perfection." I nodded, trying to swallow the flutter in my stomach. A high-profile dinner at Hawthorne Manor wasn't exactly my usual gig. Serving corporate events was one thing, but tonight felt different. "Of course, ma'am," I said, adjusting my tie. The doors opened, and the first guests arrived, their laughter echoing off the polished floors. I moved to serve the champagne, trying to appear calm, but every time I passed a pair of eyes, I felt their weight. "Good evening, Mr. Ryder," a sultry voice said. I turned and my breath caught. Aurora Whitford. Her hair shimmered under the chandelier, and her eyes were unreadable. "You're new here." "Yes," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "I usually handle corporate events, but I'm glad to be here." She smiled faintly, tilting her head. "Hawthorne Manor isn't exactly corporate." "I hope you survived the night." I chuckled nervously, unsure if she was teasing or warning me. "I'll do my best." I walked past the long dining table, balancing trays of wine. That's when I noticed him, Dominic Hawthorne. He was standing near the far end, talking quietly with a man I didn't recognize. There was something in the way he observed the room, a calm menace that made my skin prickle. His eyes met mine for a brief second, and I had to fight the urge to look away. "Callum," Mrs. Levington hissed, pointing subtly. "Serve him first. Keep it smooth." "Right," I muttered, my stomach twisting. I approached Dominic, trying to ignore the subtle tension radiating from him. "Good evening, sir." "Wine, perhaps?" He took the glass without a word, his eyes scanning me with an intensity I couldn't read. "You're the one they sent to manage tonight?" His voice was calm, but layered with authority. "Yes, sir. I'll make sure everything goes smoothly." A faint smirk tugged at his lips. "I'll be watching." I moved on, but my nerves were frayed. Aurora's gaze followed me again, lingering in a way that made my chest tighten. She caught me looking, and her smile was a mix of amusement and something I couldn't place. Maybe curiosity, maybe caution. As I poured drinks for other guests, whispers of conversation floated past me. Names I didn't recognize, hints of deals and secrets. Every so often I glanced at Dominic, who seemed to orchestrate the room without moving a muscle. He wasn't just a guest, he was a presence, like a shadow watching everything. I tried to steady myself, serving hors d'oeuvres while keeping my focus. "Mr. Ryder?" a soft voice asked. I turned. Aurora was standing a little closer than before. "Do you always get this nervous when dealing with new clients?" I suppose it depends on the client," I admitted. My heart pounded, her smile deepened. "Interesting choice of words." She tilted her head again, as if weighing me. Then she turned, blending back into the crowd, leaving me unsettled. I moved toward the dessert table when I felt someone brush past my shoulder. Dominic. Close enough that I could smell the faint scent of his cologne. Something clean. "Sharp, intimidating, Callum," he said softly, almost a whisper. "Keep an eye on her. She's more important than you realize." My throat went dry. I'll do my best, sir." He stepped back into the crowd, leaving a cold weight behind him. I had no idea what he meant. Who was more important? And why was he suddenly involving me? I glanced at Aurora from across the room. She was laughing softly with another guest, but there was a tension in her posture, a slight pause that didn't escape my notice. I frowned. Something was off. She was hiding something. And Dominic's presence made every simple task feel like walking on a knife's edge. I refilled glasses, tried to keep my hands steady, but every glance from Dominic or Aurora made me question what was real. This wasn't just a dinner. This was the first thread pulling me into a web I didn't understand yet. By the time the main course arrived, my nerves were taut. Aurora caught my eye once more, just for a heartbeat, and then Dominic's calm, unreadable stare met mine again. I knew even then that nothing tonight was ordinary. And as I moved to pour another glass of wine, I realized I had no idea who I could trust. I was carrying a tray of red wine when I noticed Aurora slip away from the main hall. Something about the way she moved, quiet, purposeful, made my stomach twist. I hesitated, unsure if I should follow or stay in my lane, but my curiosity won. "Callum," a voice said behind me, low and measured. I spun around. Spencer Vale was leaning against a polished pillar, arms crossed. Sharp eyes, calm menace. "You're watching too much, aren't you?" I wasn't, I stammered. "Just noticed." "Someone moving," he smirked faintly. "Noticed, yes. Observing, perhaps more than you realize. This mansion has rules." People move for reasons you won't understand yet. Okay, I muttered, adjusting the tray nervously. I'll be careful. Good. His tone was soft, almost casual, but it carried a weight that made me shiver. He straightened and walked away, leaving a chill in his wake. I caught a hint of a warning there, though I didn't know what it meant. I poured wine for a group of guests, trying to focus. The crystal glasses caught the chandelier's glow, and I reminded myself to breathe. Then Aurora appeared at my side, her eyes scanning the room. "You seem tense," she said softly. "Do they scare you already?" I shook my head. "Not scared, just aware." She studied me for a moment. "You've got good instincts. Use them." Before I could ask what she meant, Dominic's voice rang across the hall. "Callum." The sound made me jump. He was seated now, observing a small group at the far side, but his gaze found me immediately. "Keep your eyes open tonight. Everyone has a role. Don't miss the cues." "Yes, sir," I said, swallowing hard. "I'll stay alert." Aurora's lips twitched into a brief smile. "He always sounds like that, doesn't he? Like the room revolves around him." "It sort of does," I admitted quietly, lowering my voice. "He runs this place." She nodded but didn't elaborate. Instead, she turned and walked away, disappearing down a corridor. My pulse quickened. Why did she keep leaving like that? And why did it feel like she was deliberately testing me? I wandered toward the buffet to refill a tray and overheard snippets of conversation from a small cluster of guests. Names I didn't know, hints of deals and alliances. A woman whispered, "If Dominic finds out, everything collapses." "Finds out what?" Another voice muttered. I froze, holding the tray tighter. Something dangerous was brewing, something I wasn't supposed to hear. My instincts screamed to step back, to fade into the shadows, but I couldn't help straining my ears. Then I felt a tap on my shoulder. Spencer Vale was behind me again, calm as ever. "Curiosity can get people killed here," he said, his breath faint against my ear. "Step lightly, Callum." I understand," I murmured, heart thumping. "I won't overstep." He gave a nod, then melted back into the crowd, leaving me trembling. My hands shook slightly as I continued serving, trying to appear normal, though every nerve in my body was alert. Aurora returned, standing just outside the dining circle, watching Dominic as he spoke to a few men. I approached her cautiously. "You're paying attention to him again," she said quietly. "Careful, Callum. You'll draw notice." "I can't help it," I admitted. "Something's off. I don't know what, but—" She sighed, her gaze softening. "I feel it too. Just stay sharp. Watch for patterns, not faces." I frowned. "Patterns? Actions, reactions. Who lingers? Who disappears? Who whispers when nobody's looking? That's how you'll survive tonight." Before I could respond, she vanished again, leaving me with more questions than answers. Every time she appeared, I felt a pull, both comfort and warning. Then she would disappear, leaving a void that made the room feel colder. By dessert, the mansion seemed alive with subtle tension. Guests laughed and clinked glasses, but in their glances, in their small hesitations, I sensed alliances forming and breaking. Dominic's watchful presence hovered over it all. He was calm, unreadable, but each command, each subtle gesture, reshaped the room's energy. I carried a final tray of wine to a side table and froze when I spotted Aurora whispering to a man I didn't recognize. Their heads were close together, faces partially hidden. She smiled briefly, a light that didn't reach her eyes. I couldn't tell if it was reassurance or deception. Spencer appeared behind me once more. "You're learning," he murmured. "But remember, appearances aren't truth. Keep moving, keep observing." "Yes, I understand," I said, gripping the tray tighter. I wanted to ask more, but he disappeared again, blending with the crowd like a shadow. As the night wore on, I realized something unsettling. The mansion, the guests, even Aurora, they were all pieces in a game far bigger than I had imagined. And I had already stepped onto the board. By the time I cleared the final glasses, I knew one thing. Nothing here was what it seemed, and I had to figure out who was friend, who was foe, and what secrets lay behind every smile and glance. And the worst part, I had no idea who I could trust. I was stacking empty glasses in the corner when I overheard my name, Callum Ryder. A voice hissed, low enough that only I could hear. I froze. Lucas. My childhood friend leaning against the doorway, eyes darting nervously. "Lucas. What are you doing here?" I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. He glanced around before stepping closer. I didn't want anyone else to hear. Not tonight. Not hear what? My pulse picked up. Something in his tone told me this wasn't casual. It's Aurora, he said, voice trembling slightly. She's not just a guest. She's connected to them. The rivals Dominic warned about. I felt my stomach drop. Connected? What do you mean? She's here. She's one of ours, isn't she? Lucas shook his head. No, she's complicated. I didn't want to believe it either, but I've seen messages, heard conversations. She's feeding information. I gripped the tray tighter, trying not to shake. Are you serious? Callum, I'm serious, and I'm part of it too. His words hit like a punch. I've been giving Dominic updates. I didn't want to, but it's the only way I can survive tonight. You need to be careful. I stared at him, betrayal flooding through me. Lucas, my friend, my brother in arms since school. You're working with him? Feeding him information about me? About Aurora? It's not like that, he protested. It's survival. You'd do the same if you were in my place. Survival? I snapped. Do you even hear yourself? Betraying me, your friend, in the middle of a house full of danger, and you call it survival? He flinched, guilt written across his face. I didn't want it to be this way. I'm sorry. I shook my head, swallowing hard. Sorry doesn't fix this. Not tonight. Just then, Aurora appeared from behind a curtain, her expression tense. She caught our eyes, and for a moment I saw fear, but also determination. Callum! She started, voice tight. I cut her off. Aurora, tell me the truth. Are you with them? Or against them? Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her dress. I'm trying to protect people. I didn't want you involved. Protect who? Yourself? I asked sharply. My heart hammered. I wanted to believe her, but Lucas's confession had poisoned every word. I swear, Callum, I didn't have a choice. I had to play along, or... She swallowed, voice breaking. I could have been exposed, and you'd have no idea. I didn't want to hurt you. Do you even know what you've done? I said, voice low but shaking. Every move you make here could destroy everything. Me, Lucas, all of us. Aurora's eyes glistened. I know. That's why I've been careful. I haven't said a word to Dominic. Not directly. You haven't said a word? I repeated, disbelief mixing with anger. So, you've been dancing on a knife's edge, and you expect me to just... My hands clenched into fists. Trust you. Lucas stepped closer, almost pleading.
Callum, don't push her away.
She's not the enemy, at least not entirely. And neither am I. Not entirely? I echoed, my mind racing. Do you know what that means in a place like this? One wrong step and we're all done. Aurora bit her lip. I'm telling you the truth now. I wanted to warn you before anything happened. I've kept my distance, tried to keep you safe. I looked from her to Lucas, my chest tight. Every instinct screamed that danger was close. Every whispered conversation I had overheard earlier, every subtle glance, suddenly made sense. Betrayal wasn't just around me, it was in my closest circle. I clenched my jaw. So what now? Do I confront Dominic? Do I act or wait? How do I untangle this mess without getting burned? Lucas shook his head, voice low. We wait, observe, every move counts. One wrong step and he'll know what we know. He's not just watching you, he's watching all of us. Aurora reached out, hesitated, then let her hand drop. Callum, I'm on your side, but you need to be careful. Trust is fragile here. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my racing thoughts. Betrayal had surrounded me like a shadow I couldn't shake. Every ally could be a foe. Every glance, every word could conceal a trap. I finally nodded, voice tight. All right, we watch, we wait, and when the time comes, we act. But not yet. Aurora gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Lucas stayed silent, but I could see the tension etched into every line of his body. As I stepped away to refill a glass, I realized the mansion wasn't just a place of elegance, it was a chessboard. And I had just discovered how dangerous the pieces were. Every step I took, every glance I gave, every word I overheard mattered. Survival wasn't just about instinct tonight. It was about strategy, trust, and knowing that betrayal could come from the very people I thought I could rely on. And for the first time, I felt the cold certainty that I had to reclaim control, or I wouldn't survive. I ducked behind the heavy curtain, heart hammering. The sound of Dominic's boots echoed down the marble hallway, slow and deliberate. I had almost walked right into his setup, a trap disguised as a routine check. I clenched my fists, adrenaline coursing through me. Aurora, I whispered, glancing at her hiding beside me. She met my eyes, jaw tight but determined. Callum, we have to move now. Before they notice we figured it out, I nodded. Right, but we need a plan, quick. She glanced around the hallway, noting the positions of guards and cameras. We can slip through the service corridor. Spencer usually monitors it, but he's been distracted with Dominic. We have maybe 5 minutes before someone realizes we're gone. I swallowed hard. You're braver than I thought. Her lips twitched into a faint smile. Someone has to be. We don't have the luxury of hesitation anymore. We moved quickly, careful not to make a sound. Every step brought me closer to danger, yet for the first time, I felt a rush of control instead of panic. As we reached the service corridor, I whispered, we need information, anything that shows Dominic's real moves. The alliances, his intentions. Can you get access to his study? Aurora hesitated. It's risky, but I can try. I've seen his habits, the doors he doesn't lock. If we time it right, I can slip in and gather some files. Good, I said, voice firm. I'll cover the hallway. No mistakes. She nodded and moved silently, a shadow among shadows. I positioned myself at the corridor's mouth, listening for approaching footsteps. Dominic's laugh echoed from the main hall, sharp and confident, but I felt ready. Minutes stretched like hours until Aurora reappeared, a small stack of papers clutched in her hands. Got it, she whispered, eyes bright with determination. We need to study these. Dominic is planning something bigger than we imagined. I took the papers, scanning them quickly. Deals, messages, references to certain guests. This was the blueprint of the mansion's hidden games. He underestimates us, I muttered. If we play this right, we can turn the tables. Aurora's eyes gleamed. Finally, you sound like you believe we can. I laughed softly, tension breaking for a moment. I do now. Fear isn't going to control us anymore. Not tonight. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the air. Callum, Aurora. Dominic appeared at the corridor's entrance, calm but with an edge that made the air crackle. My pulse spiked, but I straightened. Sir, we were just checking the corridor for safety. He tilted his head, gaze sharp. Curious, aren't you? Always in the wrong place, always moving too fast. Or perhaps too slow to be trusted? Aurora stepped slightly forward. We were ensuring the guest's safety, Dominic. Nothing more. His eyes flicked between us, a faint smirk on his lips. Brave or foolish? We shall see which. I clenched my jaw, refusing to show fear. We're ready for whatever comes next. But know this, we're not just pawns. We're watching too. Dominic's smirk deepened. Bold words. Bold. I like it. He took a step back, as if acknowledging a shift he hadn't anticipated. Keep proving yourself, Callum. Tonight will be enlightening. Once he disappeared back into the main hall, Aurora exhaled, leaning against the wall. That was close. I nodded, scanning the papers again. We need to decode these, understand his alliances, anticipate his moves. Every assignment, every glance, every whisper, he's testing us, seeing if we break. But we won't, she smiled faintly. I've been afraid for weeks, Callum. But standing here with you, I feel like we can actually fight back. I met her gaze, feeling a strange warmth despite the tension. We can. But we have to stay smart, strategic. Every step counts. Aurora nodded, determination hardening in her expression. Then let's start. We moved together. No hesitation. For the first time, I felt the fear that had gripped me for nights loosen. The mansion still held shadows, and Dominic's presence was a storm waiting to strike. But now, with Aurora beside me and a plan forming, I felt ready. I adjusted the papers in my hands and whispered, Tonight we stop being reactive. We take control. Let him underestimate us. He'll regret it. Aurora's eyes shone with a mix of excitement and resolve. Then let's do it, Callum. Together. As we moved back toward the study, the weight of danger still pressing around us, I realized something essential. Fear no longer ruled me. Strategy, courage, and the right ally were enough. And for the first time since entering this mansion, I believed we could win. I slipped through the mansion's shadowed corridors, Aurora at my side. Tonight was it, the moment where plans became action. Every paper, every observation, every whispered hint we had gathered would finally count. Aurora, are you ready? I whispered. She glanced at me, eyes bright but steady. As ready as I'll ever be. We know their moves now. We just have to strike carefully. I nodded, swallowing hard. Lucas and Spencer won't see it coming. Dominic. He'll think he still holds the strings. But we've learned enough. We reached the main hall, where Dominic stood by the fireplace, speaking with Spencer and Lucas. He didn't notice us yet. His confidence was his weakness. I stepped forward. Dominic, he turned slowly, eyes narrowing. Callum, you're still here. Bold or foolish? Neither, I said firmly. I'm done being a pawn. Aurora stepped beside me, calm but resolute. We know everything. Every alliance, every secret plan. You underestimated us. Spencer's expression flickered. Lucas's eyes widened. My childhood friend caught in the act. Callum, Lucas whispered, guilt etched across his face. You betrayed me, I said, voice sharp. Every word, every move you fed to Dominic. Why? I had no choice, Lucas pleaded. I didn't want it this way. You had choices, I said, stepping closer. Every day you chose survival over loyalty. And now everything collapses because of your fear. Dominic's jaw tightened. Callum, think carefully. I've thought enough, I cut in. You thought this house, this night, controlled me. You thought you could intimidate, manipulate. But you miscalculated. Aurora handed me a folder. We collected your messages, Dominic. Proof of manipulation, deceit. Every order designed to entrap innocent people. Dominic's eyes flickered, and for the first time I saw uncertainty. You went through my private— Yes, I said, voice cold. And now the world sees it. The allies you counted on are aware. Karma is catching up. Spencer stepped back, anger flashing. You think this ends well for you? I shook my head, a bitter smile forming. No, but it ends fairly. Lucas sank to his knees, shame overwhelming him. Callum, I'm sorry. I never wanted— You'll live with your choices, I said, calm but unwavering. Like Dominic will. Dominic's face hardened, but there was a crack in the armor. Even power has limits, I realized. Even fear has a ceiling. Aurora placed a hand on my arm. We did it. But this isn't the end. It's a beginning. I nodded, feeling a weight lift even as tension lingered. Yes, we survived. Scarred, maybe, but stronger, smarter, more cautious. We know now, trust is precious, betrayal is real, and courage. Courage is everything. Dominic's entourage scattered, whispers of doubt spreading like wildfire. I caught sight of Spencer's glare, knowing he understood the tables had turned. Lucas avoided my gaze, shamed but alive. And Dominic— He remained a shadow of his former confidence, trapped by the consequences he never anticipated. Aurora's eyes met mine again. Callum, you handled this. You handled yourself. I couldn't have done it without you, I admitted. Your bravery, your foresight. You changed everything tonight. She smiled softly. We changed together. That's how we survive, I breathed in, letting the mansion's tension dissolve around me. Every betrayal, every fear, every lesson was embedded in me now. I was no longer the naive event manager who walked these halls weeks ago. I was someone who understood strategy, resilience, and the delicate balance between trust and suspicion. And this, I said quietly, is the kind of night you never forget. Where decisions matter, where loyalty is tested, and where survival is earned. Aurora squeezed my hand, her warmth grounding me, and we earned it, together. I allowed myself a moment to look around. The opulence, the flickering lights, the empty spaces where secrets had lived. It all seemed quieter now, less threatening, but I knew the world outside would always be full of danger. What mattered was we faced it, and we faced it wisely. Dominic might recover, others might rise, but I had learned what power truly meant. Not fear, not intimidation, but control over your own choices and the courage to act on them. I turned to Aurora. Ready to leave this behind? She nodded, eyes shining. Yes, let's go, Callum. The future is ours to shape. And for the first time, I believed it.